something you long believed to be true but realized wasn't?
Well, as one of the main opponents of the Illuminati, I always wanted to know what information they had that we didn't.
Now, we finally have an update on the drowning death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Now, according to ABC7, they stated that Malcolm-Jamal Warner had drowned while he was on vacation in Costa Rica. Now, the article goes on to say that Warner had drowned off the coast of Costa Rica.
Katt Williams has been warning people for years, saying clearly, if you're a black man in Hollywood and you don't follow their rules, they'll erase you like you never existed. And now, when you look back at the late Malcolm-Jamal Warner's career, it feels different. All those things Katt said start to make more sense. Malcolm wasn't out here trying to get attention or acting silly just to stay relevant. He had values. He would turn down roles that made black men look foolish or weak.
It's fragile, and in the blink of an eye,
You never know.
you never know. So speaking of legacy, what do you hope that your legacy is going to be?
There is part of me that I will be able to leave this earth, knowing and people knowing that I was.
He refused to go along with that whole routine of wearing a dress and acting like a clown, the kind of stuff the industry keeps pushing on black men who just want to act. And what did he get for standing his ground? Shut out of the game? Not. Because he didn't have talent, we all know he had plenty of that, but because he wouldn't become a puppet in their circus. And now that he's gone, suddenly everyone's acting like a fan. Media outlets posting tributes, celebrities calling him a legend and saying he was underrated. But where was all this love when he was still alive, working hard on his own terms? Where was the support when he was doing real, meaningful work without selling out? This isn't about chasing conspiracy theories for attention. It's about recognizing the patterns that keep repeating.
So much of the early part of my life listening to being celebrated on one hand, but paying way too much attention to.
This is about how Hollywood pushes real ones to the side while they're still alive and only gives them praise when it's too late to matter. Katt Williams has been speaking on this for years, but no one wanted to listen, so let's break down the real story, what Katt Williams has been exposing all along, what Malcolm-Jamal Warner truly stood for, and why all this sudden praise only started pouring in after he passed.
Some of us make choices. I think it's not a biggest choice for others. I'm saying at the end of the day, Kevin doesn't have to worry about what people are going to say about him wearing a dress because of the long line of dress-wearing people before him. So now we had Big Mama's house 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
I've never seen Medea in a pantsuit. I think she wears dresses. So now I'm saying, why are we picking on poor little Kevin Hart? Because it was his turn next. Some of us are against the Illuminati, and we are against the Illuminati at our own detriment. When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them. And nobody likes them. End quote.
We all love Dave Chappelle.
Exactly. Dave Chappelle has never been a part of the Illuminati. They don't want him or me or people like that.
Malcolm, who most people remember as Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, tragically passed away on July 20th, 2025. He was in Limon, Costa Rica on a quiet family trip, just trying to enjoy some peace. While swimming with his 8-year-old daughter, a deadly rip current suddenly pulled them both under. That beach is known for its dangerous tides, and on that day, there were no lifeguards on duty. Officials later admitted they had moved emergency staff to other areas due to recent chaos nearby. So when the rip current hit, there was no trained help available, only surfers and a few brave locals who jumped in when they saw the panic. One of them managed to reach Malcolm's daughter and get her to safety, while another tried to rescue Malcolm, but sadly, it was already too late.
First things we saw when we pulled up to the beach, signs in Spanish and English warning people about potentially hazardous conditions. This sign even giving a roadmap for how to escape.
By the time emergency crews arrived, it was too late to save him. Malcolm had drowned, with the cause of death confirmed as asphyxia due to submersion. The surfer who risked his life to try and rescue him was rushed to the hospital and remained in critical condition. When the autopsy report was released, it confirmed what many had already feared: this was a tragic accident, nothing more.
Confirmed what many already feared. This was a pure accident.
Rican Beach, where officials say a dangerous rip current swept away Malcolm-Jamal Warner. The Cosby Show star drowning in secluded paradise on Sunday. What makes that beach so treacherous?
You know, it's similar to other beaches where there are strong rip currents that are deceiving.
Mike Geist helps run a volunteer lifeguard organization here. He says while no lifeguards were on duty that day, Geist's friend, who happens to be a trained lifeguard, was there to surf and discovered Warner unresponsive in the water. Costa Rica's Red Cross says they were able to rescue another man alive who was taken to a clinic in critical condition.
Rica, Jesse, officials say Warner's autopsy is now complete.
It was completed this morning, according to authorities, Tom, and they say that it confirmed that Warner's drowning death.
What made Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death hit so deeply wasn't just the way it happened, it was who he was. He was one of the rare child stars in Hollywood who never spiraled, never sold out, and never sacrificed his integrity just to stay relevant. That's almost unheard of in the industry. Malcolm didn't just survive Hollywood, he thrived, but on his own terms. He became a self-made multimillionaire, an Emmy-nominated actor, a Grammy-winning musician, a respected poet, a director, and a man who truly stood for something both on and off the screen. He moved with purpose and built a legacy on discipline and pure talent, no gimmicks, no shortcuts. While the tabloids chased scandal, Malcolm gave them nothing. He was a loyal husband who never divorced, a proud father with no children outside his marriage, something rare in that world. And behind the scenes, those who worked with him had only one word for him: respect. Malcolm was the blueprint for what a strong, grounded, grown man looks like. And then, just like that, a freak accident cuts his life short at 54. No warning, no health problems, no drama. One minute he's in paradise with his daughter, the next he's gone. It's cruel. But if we're being honest, the only truly tragic thing about Malcolm's story is how short it was, because when you look at what he did with his time, it's clear he mastered life. He gave us the kind of example this world needs more of. But here's what really needs to be addressed: how Hollywood completely ghosted Malcolm-Jamal Warner while he was still alive. And now, everything Katt Williams has been shouting for years suddenly makes perfect sense. Malcolm didn't fall off, don't get it twisted. He didn't fade because he lacked talent. He just refused to play the Hollywood clown game. After The Cosby Show, he could have cashed in easily big-budget sitcoms, loud over-the-top movie roles, the stereotypical black best friend in every other rom-com. The doors were wide open, he just didn't walk through them because he had standards. Malcolm said no to roles that made black men look like jokes. No to dresses, no to fake accents, no to buffoonery. He refused to sell out his identity for a check. He wanted to represent something real, something dignified, and that choice came at a price. That's where Katt Williams fits in, because he's been saying this from day one. Through every interview, comedy set, and podcast rant, Katt's been calling out how Hollywood forces black entertainers into boxes. If you don't play the stereotype, the loud fool, the broken man, the punchline, they shut you out. Katt turned down those same degrading roles. He said no to wigs, no to clown suits, no to fake voices, and just like Malcolm, he paid the price. They called him crazy, labeled him difficult. But let's be honest, Malcolm-Jamal Warner had it all: talent, wisdom, discipline, and real vision.
Even before conception, we were very clear we were having it. And I knew that I needed a girl first to kind of ease me into it, because I have a pretty good idea of what kind of father I would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed a girl to kind of, slow me down and warm, soften me up, if you will. So for me, raising my daughter, I came into fatherhood already with a certain maturity, and certain understanding of male-female dynamics. And with a girl, all of that starts with the father. So I've always, since I literally.
But because he didn't fit Hollywood's mold and flat out refused to perform the way they expected, they benched him all because he wouldn't play the clown or tap dance for a check. But here's the twist: Malcolm didn't even care. He wasn't out here begging Hollywood for scraps. He was thriving on his own terms. He launched his own podcast called Not All Hood, where he regularly called out how the media tries to box in black people, acting like we all think the same, live the same, and move the same. He was never afraid to speak truth to power. Instead of chasing industry approval, Malcolm poured his energy into projects that mattered. He produced and starred in powerful documentaries, theater pieces, and indie films that tackled real issues from black history to systemic injustice, choosing truth over trend every single time. And in 2021, Malcolm dropped the filter completely. He wrote a bold op-ed for the Television Academy exposing Hollywood's real problem, the gatekeepers. He said it clearly: most of the power still sits with white executives, white producers, white writers, and white directors who get to decide how black people are shown on screen. And when Hollywood does loosen the gate just a little, it's never enough to actually shift the narrative. Malcolm once wrote, "During the cycles where the gate hinges loosen lightly and black creatives are given some input and illusion of control, and that one line says it all. Even when they let black talent in the door, it's still on their terms. You might get to play a lawyer or a doctor, but the same tired stereotypes still linger underneath. The surface might look clean, but the agenda doesn't change." Malcolm saw through the illusion and said it out loud. But he didn't just call out the execs, he also held the culture accountable. He went after modern rap and hip-hop for glorifying violence, pushing toxic masculinity, and disrespecting women. He called for better. He asked for healing instead of hype. When the Kendrick versus Drake beef blew up last year and everyone was watching it like a show, Malcolm offered real critique. He pointed out how hip-hop only gets mainstream attention when it feeds negativity, never when it promotes growth, love, or unity, and that hit a nerve. So when Katt Williams says the industry only uplifts you when they control the story, this is exactly what he means. Malcolm wasn't easy to package. He wasn't the goofy sidekick or the guy in the wig. He wanted to show the world a real black man, intelligent, deep, complex, and human. And because of that, a lot of doors stayed closed. He didn't chase cheap fame. He turned down roles that could have made him more popular but would have cost him his respect. Meanwhile, other actors from the same era were blowing up by taking the roles Malcolm refused. That formula worked for them, but that was never Malcolm's mission. He stayed true to himself, even when it cost him. In interviews, he quietly hinted at what was happening behind the scenes. His own team told him, "You're too serious, not marketable enough," which was just code for too black, too smart, too honest. And in Hollywood, that combination gets you blacklisted fast. That silence, that slow fade from the spotlight, it wasn't a coincidence. It was the price of saying no. Malcolm wouldn't play the fool. He refused to do the humiliation ritual just to keep the checks coming. And that's exactly what Katt Williams has been screaming for years. When you say no to being their puppet, they don't argue with you, they just disappear you, they erase you. But now that Malcolm's gone, suddenly Hollywood can't stop talking about him. Now he's a legend, a pioneer. Now there are glowing tributes and Instagram stories from CBS and think pieces calling him ahead of his time. But where was all that love when he was still alive? Malcolm didn't chase clout, he didn't show up to every red carpet or sell out for award show applause. And because he moved with integrity, the big platforms barely acknowledged him. The same award shows that snubbed him are now posting about how deeply missed he'll be. Suddenly, streaming services are promoting unreleased projects like Malcolm hadn't been waiting in silence for years. hoping for a green light that never came. It's wild overnight. He became the safe black icon, and that's the part that stings the most. They waited until Malcolm couldn't speak for himself to finally give him his flowers. All these tributes hitting the timeline now feel less like honor and more like damage control, like they're trying to rewrite the story after the fact, pretending they always saw his greatness, when in reality they left him out in the cold. Because while Malcolm was alive, they weren't putting him on stages, handing him awards, or backing his passion projects they were too busy promoting. The next viral clown, to focus on the entertainers who played the game. And the few times Malcolm did get attention, it was on indie circuits, niche platforms, or low-budget specials that never got the marketing push. Now they want to act like he was always part of the system when he wasn't. He was fighting it. Malcolm was building something different quietly, intentionally, and he never compromised. That's why the real fans, the culture, are mourning so hard, because we know what they tried to do to him, and we see exactly what they're trying to do now. It's the same tired playbook: silence the voices that won't bend, then pretend they were heroes once they're gone. Katt Williams has been telling us this isn't new. They erase the truth tellers in life, then rebrand them in death. And here's the real kicker: now that Malcolm is gone, they're scrambling to polish the narrative, but the truth is, they didn't want him while he was breathing. He was too real, too principled, too hard to control. So they let him fade quietly, even as he educated, uplifted, and created from the heart, just without the Hollywood stamp of approval. And now they're treating his name like a brand, putting him in tribute reels, teasing lost footage, acting like they always had love for him. But we remember the silence. We remember the years when his name was barely mentioned, while the same machine kept churning out stereotype after stereotype. Let's not act brand new. This isn't the first time, it's a cycle. They ignore the voices with substance until it's safe to claim them. They push aside the ones who won't play puppet. Then when tragedy strikes, suddenly it's all icon, legend, trailblazer. But Malcolm didn't need their fake flowers. He bloomed without their light. He built something real, even if it wasn't mainstream. And that's why his story matters more than ever now, because there are still people out here just like him, still fighting to be seen without selling out, still being pushed aside for telling the truth. So now the question is, will Hollywood finally learn, or will they just keep running the same tired play? Because if Malcolm-Jamal Warner's story proves anything, it's that real ones don't get their shine until it's too late. Katt Williams has been warning us loudly for years about the humiliation rituals, about how gatekeepers only push black talent when they can shape it into something profitable, palatable, and watered down. And if you dare to be your full self, bold, black, and unfiltered, they shut you out, or worse, label you difficult until your name stops getting called. But Malcolm flipped that script. He said no to being a character and yes to being a man, father, a husband, an artist. He chose purpose over popularity, legacy over likes. And even though that cost him mainstream shine, he never folded. That's why his loss feels like more than just another tragedy. It feels like a wake-up call. Now fans are flooding the timelines, his interviews going viral, his old podcast episodes being shared like gospel. People are finally listening, but imagine if they had listened while he was still here. Imagine what doors could have opened if his voice had been amplified instead of ignored. Now everyone's celebrating Malcolm, and that's exactly how the industry plays it. They don't give you your props while you're alive and standing in truth. They wait until it's safe, once you're gone, to remix your legacy into something they can package for press releases, tributes, and streaming promos. Katt Williams saw it coming years ago. Hollywood doesn't celebrate real ones when they're speaking out, they only honor them when they're silent. When your voice can't challenge them anymore, that's when they turn your life into a highlight reel, sanitized, branded, and profitable. So now we have to ask, is all this love for Malcolm real, or just another Hollywood cleanup job? Because, let's not forget, his refusal to sell out didn't make him a star, it made him a target. They didn't reward him for staying grounded, they erased him for it. He didn't fit their narrative, so they left him out of the spotlight. But Malcolm wasn't just another celebrity chasing fame. He was one of the few who stayed focused, stayed intentional, and never wavered even when it cost him roles, deals, or clout. In a town built on fakery, he chose substance. And that made him easy to overlook until now. His death isn't just tragic, it's a brutal reminder of how rare integrity really is in this business. So let's talk about it. Was Malcolm pushed out because he wouldn't play their game? Why does it always take death before someone gets the attention they deserve? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is real love or just a polished PR move? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.